What's going on YouTube? This is BMCool247 and I have a Yu-Gi-Oh! GOAT format draw stun deck that I made that's built around greed, which allows you to burn either player for any card they draw outside of the draw phase for 500 damage each at the end phase. So cards built around greed, I'll go ahead and get into the card by card. As you can see, the first two here, I don't need to explain what they do, but it's essentially, if you look at the build entirely, it kind of has this empty jar build to it, and that's why I have these two in here. Morphing Jar allows you to discard your hand and then draw 5, which is just a good effect in itself, but it works well with Greed because I guess both players would be taking 2,500 damage here. Cyberjar does not draw. Keep that in mind. You're picking up cards from the deck. So this isn't necessarily good for drawing, but it's good for clearing the field. And it's also good for increasing both players' hand size. And what you can do with that later on, I'll show you in just a bit here. 2 giant rats to get out your Protector of Sanctuary, because there's no real other way to search them besides Sangan. But essentially this is a card that's complete opposite in the deck, where instead of having people draw cards, it limits people from drawing cards. So it works well with a morphing jar, or it works well with a card destruction because your opponent doesn't draw any cards at all, and they can go from opening hand. If you open these two, you just normal summon him and hit card destruction, they discard their entire hand, and that's it. So that's why I play him in the deck. That's why I have some searchers for him. And he has 1900 defense, so he can actually survive some attacks. Heroes Shadow Scout. So this one adds 3 cards to your opponent's hand that you can look at. And if there's any spells, so you can get rid of them. It's a chance to get rid of a Heavy Storm or an MST, but it also adds 3 cards to their hand. So it kind of sucks in that sense. But if this goes off, you are able to essentially use Greed. You can kind of combo off with that. I am actually considering maybe playing something else in place of this, because adding 3 cards just plainly to your opponent's hand without Greed is not a good card to set. And he's not even that strong either. So, but he adds to the theme of the deck, and it could help burn that extra 1,500 life points. Spirit Cretin 2 of, because if you draw him too early and you don't have anything in the grave, it's kind of like pointless. But it works well with Rock Bombardment. So what you can do is you can set Spirit Cretin and Rock Bombardment. They attack, and you don't have anything in the grave. They attack into your Spirit Cretin. You activate Rock Bombardment first, sending a rock to the grave, and then Spirit Cretin special summons that rock, whether it's Morphing Jar or Cyber Jar, face down defense. So that's the combo there. I might run 3 of that in the future. Sangan searches the whole deck. Super powerful because you can search for whatever card. Usually this card, if you have a card destruction or the disturbance strategy in your hand, which I'll get to in just a second here. Shallow Grave is one of the best cards in the deck because special summoning and something at face down defense is just super valuable, because everyone here wants to go in that position. Especially if you have Book of Taiyu in hand, you can definitely pop off an effect right away. Just some draw cards. You don't need Delinquent Duo necessarily. Card Destruction is like one of the best cards in the deck, if not the best, because it just completely destroys your opponent. Book of Taiyu is really important to get Morphing Jar or Cyber Jar to go off your turn. 1 Scapegoat. You aren't really getting rid of your opponent's monsters, so you're gonna need some defense, and Scapegoat might be able to save you a couple thousand life points. My Body is a shield. It's good against Knock because Knock destroys first and then vanishes. So you're going to have a lot of set cards, and Knock's it's going to need some protection. 2 Book of Moon in case you need to book your own guy back down to flip him back up, or book your own guy when someone's attacking. So you can get the effect to go off again. Disturbance Strategy is really good because it works well if they have, this is where it works well if they have with this or this, like 10 cards in their hand from Cyberjar maybe, and then when it's their turn, you can use Disturbance Strategy with Greed, and they'll be taking essentially 5,000 damage for 10 cards in their hand or something like that. But at the end phase, just mind you. So if they get rid of that, you're kind of screwed. But that's what these kind of decks are made for fun, right? But yeah, if you're able to get that off, that'd be amazing. Rock Bombardment. You send a rock to the grave and do a little bit of burn damage, so that might help get you there. But it's helped to search Cyberjar or Morphing Jar, kind of like Giant Rats helps to search Protector. 3 Solemns because you need to keep your greed and you need to keep your back row from blowing up from a heavy storm. But really, it's just for greed. There's nothing else that you really set back there. Spell Shield type 8. So this protects from knock, and it's also a versatile magic jammer, but you need a spell in your hand to do it. So in case they heavy storm and you don't have Solemn in your hand and you have like a lot of set cards maybe, then you can use this. And Ojama Trio. So Ojama Trio, Scapegoat. A lot of these cards can play in response to something, which is why I like it. But essentially this helps to slow your opponent down by spamming their field with just pointless 0 attack monsters. The only thing it sucks against is against a Reasoning Gate deck, because they can just tribute it off for Monster Gate, which I've learned. But other than that, it's pretty good for slowing down your opponent, surprisingly. And then I do have a smoke screen for this deck. People playing this deck might think outside in my 3 Royal Decrees, and that should handle the trap cards. Well, I'm going to side out all 15 of my traps, and I'm going to put in these 15 cards instead. So it'll turn from a burn deck, like with greed, it'll turn from a burn deck to a mill deck, because I have cards like Needleworm, and I have cards like Gravekeeper's Servant that stalls. I don't care about the life points, so I'm going to add Upstart Goblins. And Magic Reflector to save some of these stall cards as well. Yeah, Giant Trunade is terrible against is good for your opponent, but terrible for you against this deck. So just keep that in mind. Hopefully they don't just OTK you after using it, but if you can hold out long enough, then you can definitely stall them out with this smoke screen, because they'd expect a lot of traps, but instead you just have spells and monsters. So yep, that's the deck build. I pissed a lot of people off with this deck, because just by playing him and Disturbance Strategy, or him and Card Destruction, people just like, I don't have a hand, all right, I quit. So they just like leave the game, which is hilarious. So I highly recommend playing this deck if you are a troll, and if you want to just try something new and something that your opponent might not see coming. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video.